Hello everybody, my name is Bree. I guess. These nice people who turned out to be my parents told me this. It seems weird, right? To not be sure what your own name is, who your mum and dad are, or even who you are. The first thing I can remember is the smell of the grass in the open field where I woke up. I had the most horrible headache ever. I must have injured my head somehow. But how did it happen? I sat up and tried to think about how I had gotten there, but I couldn't. I stood up and decided to go home, but I didn't remember where my home was. And when I thought some more, I realised I didn't know my name either. I was gripped by panic. I got on my feet and ran. There were some houses not far from the place where I woke up, so I headed over there. I banged on people's doors and cried for help. Then, one old woman finally let me in and asked me to tell her who I was and what had happened to me. But I couldn't remember my name or my address. She looked very confused. I was so terrified and embarrassed that I burst into tears. The woman tried to calm me down and gave me a cup of hot tea. It all seemed like a lifetime had gone by, and only after a bunch of police cars, hospitals, numerous talks with doctors, and a reunion with my newfound family did I learn the story of my life. I lived in Kansas with my mum, my dad, and my younger brother. Our family was far from being perfect. Actually, my parents were getting divorced, which, as my mum claims, was the true reason for what had happened to me. That day, everything came to a head. After another fight, my father collected all of his things and left the house, slamming the door. Mum was really upset and angry. She was on a real tear. She put all the things that reminded her of my father into plastic bags and told me to take them outside to the garbage as soon as possible. She didn't have the heart to do it herself. And then, it normally takes a few minutes to take the trash out, but it seemed to be taking me even longer. It had been 15 minutes, and I was still gone. My mum told my brother Gary to go and check to see what I was doing out there, and it was he who had discovered that I was missing. First, my mum didn't worry much. She thought I went for a walk to clear my head after that horrible incident. But after 2 or 3 hours, they started looking for me. My brother had to run around the whole neighbourhood, and he went to every place where he thought I could possibly be. My mother called my friends and their parents, but nobody had seen me or even knew where I was. In the evening, it was obvious that something terrible had happened. Everybody took part in the search. The police, neighbours, friends. My mum even called my dad, and of course he rushed back home. My parents were in despair when they were finally informed that I was found in an area that was 3 miles away from our house. My mum said that when she saw me in the hospital sitting on my bed, she immediately realised there was something completely wrong with me. I also remember that meeting. I was trying to collect my thoughts and to bring my memories back, and then I saw a crying woman running up to me. She squeezed me in her arms and said my name so many times, Bree. It was so confusing. I didn't feel anything. People who were calling themselves my parents were absolutely unknown to me, which made them feel absolutely miserable. But psychiatrists and neurologists gave us positive projections about my condition, though none of them could give us an exact answer. What could have happened? I went back home and had to start over. I explored my house, my room, looked through my stuff, my pictures and social networks. I read my chats with my friends, trying to regain my memory, but it seemed like I was reading about another person's life. It was so strange to learn what kind of person I used to be and what interests and thoughts I used to have. Time went on, and since my common knowledge and understanding of life in general hadn't suffered, doctors thought it would be good for me if I started attending school again. I was terrified because I wasn't sure if I still knew my school curriculum, but they thought it could have a positive impact on my memory. Well, no such luck. Everybody at school was aware of my story. It turned out I was kind of a local celebrity or something. This was a nightmare. I felt hundreds of eyes on me every time I was walking down the hallways. Even though I could manage to solve mathematical equations, I couldn't remember the multiplication table or spelling. My classmates were whispering behind my back. Suddenly, some guys came up to me and asked, "What are you faking for, Bree? You can tell us the truth." They knew me, but I didn't know them, so I freaked out. They just stared at me like they didn't get it. One girl was especially upset. Later in the evening, I got a message on my phone. "Why did you ignore me? I thought that you would at least tell me." The girl's name was Sandra. She must have been my best friend, so I asked her to meet. I managed to sneak out of the house and we met in the park. I told her everything I remembered. I really hoped she would believe me and back me up. She suspiciously looked at me the whole time I was talking and then said, "Do you really think that I'm going to buy that?" But my true story didn't impress her at all. She got really angry with me and said that she didn't believe a word I was saying because it was all nonsense. She also added that she never thought that I would stoop this low to be more popular at school. And later it turned out that everyone at school had pretty much the same point of view, teachers included. Everyone thought I was trying to get attention. Nobody talked to me anymore, and they all tried to stay away from me. It was getting more and more stressful for me that day. I felt like I was out of my mind, and on top of that, I was all alone. Once when I was in math class, it happened again. My classmates were staring at me and chuckling. I couldn't concentrate. Suddenly, the teacher asked me a question. I could not answer. Then somebody cried out, "Well, it must be your blackouts again." Everybody started laughing. I was just sitting there, and it was getting harder and harder to breathe. And then I opened my eyes to see that I was lying on the floor in the middle of the classroom. My hands were covered in bruises. My hair was a mess. All my classmates ran to the corners of the classroom and were looking at me in horror. The teacher was also standing there with them, speechless. I was too humiliated to say anything. I had no idea about what I had been doing or why. After the lesson, the teacher came up to me and gently asked if I needed any help. I was so embarrassed. I had to meet the school psychologist afterward. He asked me if I remembered anything that had happened in class. I tried as hard as I could, but there was no way. He said that even the teacher had gotten scared. I had had a really bad seizure. Doctors were now recommending that I not go to school for a while, so I had nothing more to do but just sit in my room, thinking it all over. I was tortured by thoughts about what I had done to freak everybody in the classroom and why I couldn't remember anything again. I would spend the whole time lying in my bed, reading books. Mum said I didn't used to like reading before. My parents tried to encourage me as much as they could, but it didn't help. I felt like an alien in an unknown hostile world. Everybody was against me. Once my mum came to my room and said there was someone there to see me. I had no idea who it could be. I had no friends, so I was surprised to see Sandra in the hallway. She looked very guilty and asked if we could talk. We went upstairs and she burst into tears. She asked me how to forgive her and the fact that she had not believed me. She said she believed me now. I was not angry with Sandra at all. I was so happy that she had come. I worked up all my courage and asked her to tell me what I had done that day. Sandra went pale. She didn't feel like talking about it. But then she finally gave in and said I was screaming, hitting everything around me and speaking some weird language in a terrifying voice. It all sounded like a horror movie. I don't know why, but Sandra's visit and her presence made me feel better. Now at least I had a friend from the past back. My blackouts have continued to happen. I think I just have to live with them for now and accept things as they are. I have my loving family and my friend Sandra. My school teachers and classmates fully understand and accept my situation now. They all helped me cope with these incidents. If I forget something, Sandra always tells me what happened. I also have a private blog where I write down everything that happens to me during the day to make sure I don't miss anything. As for my parents, of course they're both suffering, and the word divorce was never mentioned again. It's sad that it was shared grief, not love, that brought them back together. And it is also sad for me that I'm not able to feel the pure happiness of their reunion, because I don't have those wonderful memories any more of my childhood with them. I wish I could remember. Mum said that Dad had always been everything to me, but my whole backstory had been destroyed. Well, I don't give up easily, and I know I will get through this one day. I hope you've never had this kind of experience, but let me know if my story touched your heart. I'll be glad to get any feedback. Thanks for watching.